A very good afternoon to all of you. I thank Dr. Tushar Patil for hosting us here, and I thank Icon for giving me this opportunity. So it's an interesting discussion. So what we will do, we will discuss a case quickly, which is one of our real life cases, and after that, we will carry forward the discussion. And for a change, I chose to discuss regarding metastatic squamous cell carcinoma lung because we discuss adenocarcinoma most often. So starting ahead with the case, so this patient presented to us in January 2019 as a 61-year-old male with no family history of cancer, a previous smoker with 10 pack years history, known case of coronary artery disease post CABG on some cardioprotective medications, presenting with history of right-sided intermittent chest pain associated with dry cough for 3 months. So patients evaluated with the CT scan thorax, abdomen, pelvis showed a right-sided lung and pleural nodules, largest 4.3 centimeter mass in the right upper lobe with right minimal pleural effusion, mediastinal and hilar nodes. The CT-guided biopsy from the lung nodule showed poorly differentiated squamous cell carcinoma with typical immunohistochemistry. All the labs were normal and the echocardiography showed preserved ejection fraction. Additional tests were done with EGFR mutation analysis by RT-PCR, which showed EGFR wild type, and PDL1 IHC by Ventana SP263, which showed a 5% PDL1 positivity. This patient was in 2019 January planned for first-line treatment with GEM carbo regimen. So we can see this is the baseline scan on the left-hand side, and it was a 4.3 centimeter mass, which decreased with a good partial response after 3 cycles of GEM carbo. And after 6 cycles GEM carbo, the right upper lobe nodule increased in the solid component. There was a new right interfacial nodule and new right lower lobe nodules, and there were few new nodules suggestive of progressive disease. So the patient was taken up for second line immunotherapy with nivolumab. Endocrinological and connective tissue workup was normal. So after 6 cycles of nivolumab, we can see on the right hand side the nodules decreased in size and there was a good partial response. Patient continued on nivolumab till November. In April 2020 and July 2020, serial scan showed maintained response with stable disease. And patient completed 28 cycles of nivolumab till September 2020 when he presented to us with right-sided gynecomastia. So he had tolerated nivolumab really well with only grade 1 rash and itching, which was managed well on topical steroids. He was compliant, continued nivolumab even during the COVID pandemic. And we planned a workup for gynecomastia. This is, you can see on the right side, there is, gynecomastia. The endocrinological workup was done and the endocrinologist reviewed. He felt that the cortisol, as per the cortisol level, the sodium was slightly on the lower side. So there is some hypocortisolemia, but there was no hypophysitis on the MRI brain. Patient was started on low dose Hyson with letrozole and he had some initial relief in the gynecomastia. Nivolumab was continued, but then the right-sided painful gynecomastia continued on increasing. So we discussed, we repeated a scan and we actually found that it was a right-sided chest wall mass and it was not a gynecomastia. The lung nodules were stable. So we discussed in MDT again and we planned that we'll continue nivolumab, and in view of oligo progression, we will give palliative radiotherapy to the right chest wall mass, and we planned for hypofractionated, a slightly higher dose with 30 gray 5 fractions to the chest wall mass, which he completed in December 2020 with very good local and clinical response. So we can see after 38 cycles of nivolumab, further scan showed a very good response in the right-sided chest wall mass, but his right lower lobe nodules were increasing. There was a new right subcarinal node and right axillary lymph node showing progressive disease. So an MDT decision was done to rebiopsy the patient and start on docetaxel plus ramucirumab. Patient was not willing for rebiopsy, so we sent for a liquid biopsy. So this is the liquid biopsy report. Patient started on docetaxel plus ramucirumab, and after cycle 1, the liquid biopsy showed classical EGFR exon 19 mutation with a variant allele frequency of 0.154%, and it was a classical oncogenic pathogenic mutation. So in the MDT, we decided to continue docetaxel plus ramucirumab till further progression or severe toxicities, and we preserved EGFR-based treatment for later on if required. So post 3 cycles docetaxel ramucirumab, there was a good partial response, and there was necrosis in the previously existing solid lung nodules. But after 4 cycles of docetaxel ramucirumab in June 2021, patient had grade 3, grade 4 rash, as you can see. So we had to stop docetaxel and we decided we will start erlotinib and we'll continue ramucirumab. In July 2021, a patient again presented with an altered sensorium and grade 3 rash. He was on erlotinib ramucirumab, and we evaluated the patient with MRI brain. It was normal. CSF analysis was done twice, did not show any mets. CT scan was showing stable disease, so we thought probably it is an anaphylactic shock, not tolerating erlotinib ramucirumab. So we shifted the patient to osimertinib from August 2021, which the patient is continuing, and the latest scan done in September 2021 is showing stable disease. So going ahead with the discussion, talking about this patient, we will invite our tumor boards. So the tumor board A will actually decide the treatment of the patient, but the patient scenario given to them is that the patient cannot afford any treatment. He can afford only treatment under government scheme. Tumor board B will be answering the question, keeping in scenario that the patient can afford anything. He has unlimited finances, but comorbidities is an issue. He is diabetic, hypertensive, having less ejection fraction, 42% ejection fraction, history of coronary artery disease. And tumor board C will decide the treatment for the same patient, considering the situation that the patient has limited finances, can afford, but doesn't have unlimited finances. He lives alone. The spouse has already died, and patient children are staying separate. So he can afford, but staying alone and finances and support are an issue in the long term. So taking these situations, I expect these are these questions. We'll be taking one by one, and I expect a very quick, crisp answers from all the tumor board. There will be audience voting also. I think the link will be provided, and those questions for which the audience voting is there, I think there is a Google link provided, so you can also answer, and then maybe we can discuss these questions in the end. So starting with question 1 with the tumor board A. So what should be the baseline or initial molecular testing in a case of metastatic squamous cell carcinoma lung in your practice, given your patient profile? Yes.
Hello. For metastatic squamous cell lung, in my setup, as patient has limited finances, I will do biopsy, IHC. At maximum, I can do NGS on the block if permits, and PDL1 test.
Okay, but
at least PDL1 testing.
Okay, at least PDL1, correct. Going to tumor board B, sir, what will be your approach to molecular testing?
So given the basic histopathology as squamous cell carcinoma, routine molecular profiling is not recommended as such. But
Okay.
if there is a history of being never smoker, long-term ex-smoker, or light smoker, say for example, less than 50 pack years. So in such situations, I will definitely recommend molecular profiling. Even
So
though
this patient, sir, already has a 10 pack year history of smoking. So
Yes.
what will be your recommendation?
No. So in this patient, I won't recommend upfront molecular tumor profiling.
Okay. What about PDL1, sir? You won't do PDL1?
Yes, PDL1 definitely I'll ask for.
Okay. So no molecular testing and PDL1. For tumor board C, sir, how would you approach your molecular testing and profiling?
Hello. So this patient is living alone. He has finances, but not unlimited finances. And he has poor support at home. So we would like to try at least if he has got any options of a mutation so that on a single tablet he can continue with lack of much of support at home. So we would probably go for option number 3. We will discuss option number 4 with him only if he's able to, because if you have to do a long-term planning, we'll have to keep his finances. So
Okay. So
3
you
or
will
4.
do selected EGFR Al-cross MET testing, and you will also do a PDL1. For patients, who wanted to do PDL1, what platform would you prefer, sir? Tumor board A? So quick answer, sir.
I think both the DACO 22C3 and Ventana SP263 have equivalent analytical performance.
So what
either
will
of
you
the-
prefer in your patient?
Currently, we are doing SP263
Okay,
because
SP263. Tumor board B?
Yeah, I agree with SP263.
Okay, tumor board C?
We agree.
Okay, so they all agree for SP263. So, but talking about the evidence for this, so the ASCO guidelines for biomarker testing in resource limited setting for squamous cell carcinoma mentions only IHC for PDL1. However, the NCCN guidelines does mention a broad molecular profiling, including everything and PDL1, but the category 1 recommendation is only PDL1. And as Tumor Board B correctly said, the ESMO guidelines say that molecular testing is not recommended in confirmed squamous cell carcinoma except in never smokers or light or long ex-smokers. The Indian consensus guidelines, published earlier this year, does mention that EGFR and ELK testing may be done in the biopsy samples, and testing for other mutations may also be considered, especially if there is mixed histology or never smoker patient. But PDL1 testing is recommended for all patients. So coming to tumor board C, we'll start. What would be the first line
Excuse me,
treatment?
sir. Sir, the panel A, there is limited funds. So will the patient afford all this test?
Well, so I think the panel, they were clear that they will do only PDL1 IHC.
Which government scheme supports these tests?
So, well, let us continue this for the discussion's sake, but they want to do PDL1 IHC. So it is their opinion. Let us not get into those logistics. But I think for a resource limited setting, also PDL1 IHC testing is something which is minimal and recommended. So that is how we should take it. Now, starting ahead with tumor board C, sir, what would be your first line treatment choice?
So
Considering this patient mutation negative and PDL1 is 5%.
So PDL1 is 5%. He has manageable resources. He is as such affordable. We are considering.
Yeah.
So so given a choice, we will offer definitely pembrolizumab with chemotherapy regimen if at all
Okay.
he is able to manage it.
Okay. But sir, you offered the patient PDL1 testing by Ventana 263.
Okay.
And now you are, so would you want to do a DACO again, or you want to, or you would expect that, considering the blueprint data, it is acceptable to, use pembrolizumab even when we are doing PDL1 by Ventana?
So generally more than 1% we do accept. And especially when we are
Okay.
using it in combination with chemotherapy, then the data can be
Okay,
extrapolated.
fair enough, sir. Fair enough. Tumor board B, sir, what would be your treatment? Quick.
So my
And-
patient has money. I would definitely offer him immunotherapy plus chemotherapy combination. And as I have opted for SP263, I'll go ahead with Atezo because that is basically available to me. That's it.
Okay, but I think, sir, for Atezo, they all used SP142. But anyway, sir, you also are opting for chemo plus immunotherapy. For tumor board A, so these are your treatment choices, sir, or if anything you may prefer as a first line, considering your patient doesn't have any finances.
gemcitabine carboplatin.
Okay, very good. So I think, telling quickly regarding the evidence for first line, keynote 024, only for patients with PDL1 more than 50%, significant OS benefit, PFS benefit, as well as a carryover benefit with PFS2 advantage. Keynote 042, again, all comers more than 1% were included, but the driver of OS benefit was mainly the 40% patients who had 50%, more than 50% PDL1. And although the group where 1 to 49% PDL1 was positive, Pembro single agent was equivalent to chemo. Still, the chemo arm did not receive second line immunotherapy or in the later lines, so cannot be considered a standard, but still single agent Pembro is accepted by NCCN guidelines as a category 2B, even in 1 to 49%. Atizo single agent for more than 50% also, we have evidence, IM power 110. And keynote 407 for all comers, more than 1%. Pembro plus chemo was found to have a superior with all the patients, and more than 1% was the patients who benefited rather than those who were negative. IM power 131, Atizo plus chemo, again only PFS advantage, no OS advantage, so cannot be recommended. Checkmate 227, Nivo EP in the PDL1 positive cohort, there was a benefit, but in the PDL1 negative cohort, the hazard was better. But we had some cases which were initially progressing. This is irrespective of PDL1, and the checkmate 9LA irrespective of PDL1, adding 2 cycles of chemotherapy to Nivo EP combination, we see that the curve starting separating right from the beginning, and the hazard is good to 0.66. So these are the evidences. And if you look at PDL1 more than 50%, by addition of chemotherapy, what you are achieving is a better PFS. So specifically, you will choose patients who are having, who require faster response, higher disease load, brain mets, liver mets, and more specifically, what the recent data showed, that patients who are non-smokers. So where you want to combine chemo with immunotherapy, even when the PDL1 is more than 50%. Again, talking about the treatment related adverse events. So the most, arm which has most adverse events in cross trial comparison is Nivo EP plus chemo, while single agent Pembro is something which is most accepted. And patients with PDL1 1 to 49%, I think combination of Pembro plus chemo is something which has shown good, but Nivo EP plus chemo is also recommended. So first line IO therapies, this is what the summarization is in the squamous arm, and the guidelines also recommend this. Now talking about those who cannot afford immunotherapy, so we have this gem platinum combination versus PEM platinum combination, and the study showed superiority with gem platinum combination. Pemetrexed use not to be restricted in non-squamous to non-squamous, and bevacizumab use showed life-threatening hemorrhages. So in squamous, we don't use bevacizumab. And the monoclonal antibodies also did not show any major benefit. So we go ahead with only PEM chemo. And even in elderly patients, doublet chemo was found to have a superior advantage to single agent chemo. So even in elderly patients with comorbidities, doublet is to be preferred. Now let us go to tumor board A again. So sir, considering your patient is not progressed at the end of 4 to 6 cycles of the induction therapy or first line therapy, would you have a maintenance strategy?
Gemcitabine maintenance.
Okay, gemcitabine maintenance. Tumor board B and C. So probably you would continue with the
I will go ahead with Pembro maintenance.
Pembro maintenance. I think tumor board C would also agree. So maintenance strategy, gemcitabine has a category 2B recommendation in squamous, so can be used. And immunotherapy maintenance is something which is done. So coming to tumor board B. So considering that the patient has progressed on first line treatment, do you re-biopsy or re-evaluate your patient for mutations at progression in metastatic squamous cell carcinoma lung, considering they were mutation negative at baseline in your setting?
Yes, sir. I'll go ahead with the rebiopsy and we'll plan my further treatment based on that.
Okay. And what kind of biopsy would you do, sir? Tissue, liquid?
Preferably tissue biopsy.
Okay. Tumor board C?
At present, there is no clear-cut recommendation for doing a rebiopsy, especially if the patient is proven squamous cell carcinoma and we have done a baseline NGS. But maybe case-to-case basis, if we are expecting something, or maybe if the patient wants to try whatever options are available, then we may discuss it. Tissue is always preferable, but if the condition does not permit, and if the patient agrees with limited evidence, then maybe we can go ahead with the liquid biopsy.
Okay. And tumor board A, your patient, would you go for any repeat molecular testing or re-evaluation?
Yeah, we'll repeat biopsy.
Will repeat biopsy even on chemotherapy, sir?
Yes, because the tumor biology may change on therapy or
Okay,
over a period of time. We may get
okay,
something
okay.
target level
So,
mutation.
okay, sir. Fair enough. So liquid biopsy is, I know, I agree. I mean, tumor tissue biopsy has some advantages because it can tell you whether there is a sarcomatoid transformation or a small cell transformation, but it can only biopsy one clone. Whereas if you are disease is progressing at multiple sites. So from multiple sites, the tumor cells are shedded. So liquid biopsy does has the advantage of detecting more mutations because you have the more clones in the blood, and therefore it is a very good method for spatial and temporal tumor heterogeneity evaluation. Also, for liquid biopsy, what you have to see is a allele frequency, and the study clearly showed that you have a median allele frequency of 0.4. So a low allele frequency is there, but they do respond to treatment. And liquid biopsy is shown to rescue 15% higher patients as compared to a solid biopsy or a tissue biopsy. So, I would prefer to do a liquid biopsy, and that's what we did in our patient. Now, coming to tumor board C, what would be your therapy of choice for such a patient for post first line progression? So, the biopsy report is awaited. How would you go ahead and start the treatment, sir?
So this patient has progressed on Pembro plus chemo,
Yes.
and there is evidence of using ramucirumab with taxane in the second line setting in squamous cell lung cancer. We'd like to go for option number 2.
Okay. Tumor board B's.
I agree with tumor boards.
Okay. And tumor board A. So, what would be your treatment choice post first line progression?
If patient is maintain his performance status, so I'll like to add docetaxel along with carboplatin. As patient has minimal finances, so ramucirumab is not an option for.
Okay. So, you want to use a doublet chemo in second line, sir?
If PSS permit, patient is young and PSS permits, then
Okay.
doublet or
Okay.
single agent.
So interesting, but evidence probably doublet has not shown evidence as compared to a single chemo in the second line setting. What about low dose altered scheduling immunotherapy? If you can manage in government schemes, is there any possibility of exploring this, sir? Or do you believe that can help the patient?
Not possibility in government scheme for
Okay,
immunotherapy.
okay, sir. So I think in second line we have good evidence of immunotherapeutic agents if immunotherapy is not used in first line. And in our patient we had used first line gem carbo because in 2019 January the Pembro first line data was not there. So we used second line nivolumab, and then we have data for nivolumab checkmate 017 checkmate and oak study where atezolizumab was also showing OS advantage. Both these did not require PDL1 testing, but Keynote 010 required PDL1 to be at least greater than or equal to 1%. For if IO is utilized earlier or not feasible, these are the options: classical docetaxel, afatinib in Lux Lung 8. It did show some median OS of 7.9 months. And then we have the Rivel data with docetaxel ramucirumab as well as docetaxel nintedanib combination. This was of course a pre-immunotherapy data, and in the post-immunotherapy settings we have seen retrospective studies which have given better advantage, also higher advantage when using docetaxel ramucirumab. Talking about low dose immunotherapy, this is something which is going on, and there are studies. So this was a low dose pembrolizumab study, 100 milligram flat dose used, and they could show that it was cost saving as well as having a similar effect as to standard dosing. Another study of low dose nivolumab, they used 20 milligram, and they showed that the effect was not separate from the standard dosing. So this is something interesting, especially in the resource limiting patients, if they can be given low dose nivolumab. Okay, coming to tumor board A again. So, sir, what would be your therapy of choice for progression on second line treatment?
I will consider local therapy and then continue same systemic therapy.
So, even on chemotherapy, suppose you are using second line docetaxel plus minus, chemotherapy, uh, platinum. So, you would continue same and you would use local therapy. What local therapy, sir?
Yes, ablative therapy is definitely beneficial in this patient because I see
So the patient presented with a localized chest wall mass, what would you do
localized
in
chest
your
wall mass
patient?
or even pulmonary nodules less than 5 in number. So ablative therapy SBRT is beneficial, which has been shown that DFS is definitely has increased from 12 to by 12 to 24 months. So either ablative therapy means SBRT or extremely hyperfractionated radiation therapy of 70 grade 10 fraction that also been beneficial if patient has a compromised lung.
Okay, okay. Tumor board B, sir, what would be your choice in your patient when the patient has, single metastatic disease in the right chest wall?
Yeah. So I agree with actually tumor board A. We will go ahead with the continuation of the same therapy because we have already exploited immunotherapy as the first option and second option as ramucirumab. That we are going to continue, and local ablative therapy for that one particular oligometastatic site. So we'll continue with the treatment along with
So
local
you'll
therapies.
continue docetaxel ramucirumab and give,
Yeah.
tumor board C, sir. So do you follow this oligo progression concept even on chemotherapy, or this is something you believe is only for systemic, targeted therapy or immunotherapy only?
So in this case, patient has received immunotherapy earlier, and we know that sometimes the effect of immunotherapy lasts much beyond, even if you stop it for various reasons,
Yeah.
financial issues
yeah.
or whatever. So maybe in this case, if you give just PAL-RT and continue the therapy, you might just get the abscopal effect also in case there is some effect later on.
Okay, okay. So I think interesting concepts by everyone. There are surgeons are also there. So oligometastatic squamous cell carcinoma lung. Do you consider surgery or definitive, radiotherapy? I'll start with, tumor board C. If the surgeons are there. Okay, tumor board B. If surgical oncologist is there.
No surgery.
Oligometastatic squamous cell
No, no.
carcinoma lung.
No surgeries.
No surgery. So single brain mets with a single lung lesion. Would you consider surgery?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Tumor board A, any surgical oncologist?
Yeah, if a solitary met is there, single met, so probably resection if conditions of the patient permits.
Okay. So I agree, by and large, patient selection is the key. But, NCCN guideline does mention that solitary metachronous or synchronous lesions can be, treated by local treatments like parenchymal sparing resection or SBRT or image guided thermal ablation. Limited metastasis in brain, especially again, surgical resection, stereotactic radiosurgery, these are being explored, although the category of recommendation is low. And even in, advanced setting with oligoprogression, guidelines does mention that giving local consolidative RT or, stereotactic radiotherapy does have a better PFS and OS. Okay, starting with the tumor board A, now your patient has, progressed on your second line. So you have started second line docetaxel plus minus carboplatin. So what would be your third line treatment, sir?
Yeah, actually, if patient in second line, if I said something like tissue for EGFR testing, and if it is come positive, then afatinib can be given under government scheme, or
Okay.
else it is the best supportive care for me. in
Okay. So, but
government
Lux lung data does show that afatinib can be used even in mutation negative squamous cell carcinoma in later lines. But okay, tumor board B. So patient has progressed post docetaxel ramucirumab now. How will you manage?
Yeah, among these given options, as the patient is EGFR mutation positive, I agree with tumor board A. I would prefer to give afatinib there
Okay.
among the options given.
So would you consider re-challenging with immunotherapy, because patient had a good response to immunotherapy, and now the patient has progressed post docetaxel ramucirumab?
Yeah, I'll discuss with the patient's family actually, because if we have used Pemro in the first place and the financial burden that patient has taken up, if they are ready
But
after
your
progression,
patient has unlimited finances.
yeah,
Finance is not a limitation.
yeah, I'll definitely put forward still an option, but it's a choice actually. But here the
So what will
EGFR
you
mutation
decide
has
for your
come.
patient? Your patient has unlimited finances
So,
and he is fit
but
to
now
take treatment.
now if I have EGFR mutation positive there, I'll first offer TKIs, and then we'll
Okay.
just see how he behaves with that.
Okay. I think tumor board C.
So definitely at this point of time, re-challenge with IO is not recommended as such. So I will not give that option to the patient. Definitely based on the Lux Lung 8 trial, afatinib can be given if the performance status is borderline and we don't want, or the patient is not fit for any other chemotherapeutic agent, then definitely afatinib is one of the options. If the patient is fit enough, if at all he is willing to take intravenous chemotherapy, whatever options are left, like vinorelbine can be offered with a palliative intent. But apart from that, if both the options are not feasible, especially if the TKI is working, then we can offer.
Yeah. So I had the advantage because in my patient I did not use immunotherapy upfront. So I was able to use docetaxel ramucirumab as a third line option, and still give a standard treatment. But these are challenges with upfront immunotherapy combinations as to what you give in the later lines. But exactly challenges. Again, squamous cell carcinoma with EGFR mutation positive. So I think the tumor boards all answered afatinib. So anyone differing, squamous cell carcinoma with exon 19 mutation, tumor board, see, how do you see that upfront if it happens, and how do you approach it, and what do you think, it has a better outcome or a inferior outcome?
So definitely, if upfront we are getting exon 19, it is a positive sign. We can offer.
And what will you choose, sir, treating EGFR exon 19 mutation in metastatic squamous cell carcinoma?
Definitely, irrespective of the histology, osimertinib stands out as a first line. So given a choice, if the finances are not an issue, osimertinib can be offered. But on the other hand, even as per the geotac trial, we can offer afatinib, and especially we know that it works well in exon 19. So both
Okay.
options.
But do we have evidence for osimertinib in squamous cell carcinoma EGFR mutated? Well, we don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tough question, but tumor board B, do you EGFR mutation positive squamous cell carcinoma?
And I totally agree with Dr. Rahul actually.
Yeah. Tumor board. So, this is an interesting study again published earlier this year from Tata Hospital, Mumbai, regarding the molecular characterization of squamous cell carcinoma lung. And 5.8% squamous cell carcinoma lung were found to have EGFR mutations, with 13.5% patients actually having druggable mutations. Mutations were found more commonly in non-smokers, and patients with mutations were actually found to have inferior survival as compared to patients who did not have mutation. So surprisingly, even though they have targetable mutations, the survival was inferior. Another retrospective data from China, which showed that there is response to TKI 25 to 49% in squamous cell carcinoma with EGFR mutation positive. But compared to the adenocarcinoma counterpart, the PFS is much less and the survival is much less. But we don't have much evidence on using EGFR, on treating EGFR positive squamous cell carcinoma, although around 5 to 6% cases we can expect. So I think I'll summarize here by the ESMO guidelines, which really summarizes the treatment of metastatic squamous cell carcinoma very well. So in never smokers or light smokers, you do molecular testing, and if it is positive, you start targeted therapy, and if it is negative, then you follow treatment as per PDL1. If the PDL1 is more than 50%, single agent pembrolizumab is the recommended, or single agent atezolizumab can also be used. And the PDL1 is less than 50%, then you go with chemo immunotherapy options with either nivo EP or pembro plus chemo, or nivo EP also can be used. And on further disease progression, you have, if immunotherapy is not used, you can use Nivo, Atizo, or Pembro. Otherwise, you can use docetaxel with ramucirumab or nintedanib. And then you have options of using, afatinib or erlotinib. So with this, I thank all of you, and I think we have some time for taking questions as well as a comment from our expert. I think Dr. Advani has joined virtually, so he may be giving us some comments. So any audience questions? So I think we'll go ahead with Advani sir for his expert comments. Sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. I think I have really enjoyed all the tumor board 1, 2, and 3, and everybody has given their opinion. So I think it's a really good way to organize and see how different opinion can be built up to get the best of the for the patient. I think the most important thing in the lung cancer, as we have seen today, is that we have transformed the lung cancer from a disease where we had hardly any opportunity to use different protocols. But today we have large opportunity to use different treatment in different combination and sequence. So I think this has really made our job a little difficult, but I think it's also good that we have been able to evolve and give the optimum treatment to the patient. So I think for the optimization of the treatment, you have to really be the expert in the area of the lung cancer to treat them. So I think that's where I think with such a extensive knowledge, today the time has come for the super specialization in the lung cancer. People who are super specialized, they will do a better justice to the patient as compared to the general oncologist. So I think as it is happening on the surgical side, on the medical side also, the super specialization has to come in, and then only we can deliver the best of the treatment to them. I think with these few words, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your precious comments. If the audience questions, answers are there, can we have the answers? So do we have the answers, what the audience has answered? So I think the audience has chosen not to vote. So anyways, thank you for, so I think there have been only 2 responses. So, but request the audience to be more involved from the next session onwards. Thank you and enjoy the next sessions. Thank you.